Finally, the time has come to reveal the fusion that's going to be part of the 6th anniversary of Plarium. It's been a lot of speculation around this champion, if it's going to be as good as Armand's was last year, if it's going to be game changer, I don't know yet, but spoiler alert, looks really promising and looks like probably one of the best fusions we've had in the last couple of months. Let's have a look at him. Hi, Senda here and welcome to another raid video. In this case, finally Plarium has allowed us, all the content creators, to have a look at Lord Entertainer Fabian, which is you're going to be seeing here now on the screen, and is part, or is not part, he is the fusion of March 2025 and of course the part of the celebrations for the 6th year anniversary of Plarium. In this case, we have a champion that is a powerhouse. He's an amazing champion to control waves, has turn meter steal, has buff stripping, has extra turn, has petrify, has a lot of things in his kit, and let's see in detail all his kit and what is he capable of doing. First of all, we have an A1 which says attacks one enemy 2 times, each hit steals 10% of the target's turn meter and places a true fear debuff for 2 turns if the target's turn meter is fully depleted. This is really cool because it's not just a turn meter decrease, it's a turn meter steal, which means takes 20% of the enemy, he puts himself this 20% and it creates a difference of a 40%, which is pretty significant. On top of that, if the enemy's turn meter is fully depleted, he places a true fear of 2 turns, not 1, 2 turns, which is really annoying. In case you don't know, the true fear, what it does is basically when a champion has true fear, has a 50% chance of taking a turn, or sorry, not taking a turn, but to use a skill. When his time to use a skill comes, you select whatever skill you want to use, and 50% will use this skill normally, another 50% has a chance of losing the turn and putting that skill on cooldown, which is a really powerful thing, and 2 turns means twice that you have to flip that coin and play 50-50. So very powerful skill, very powerful A1. Let's move on the second one, A2, Unwelcome Guest, attacks one enemy, places a petrification debuff for 1 turn, and has a 75% chance, with books 100% chance, of placing a True Fear debuff for 2 turns, again another 2 turns, on all other enemies who are not under fear or True Fear debuffs already. So it's a really powerful thing. We choose a target, we hit the target, that enemy gets petrified, which means it just loses the turn, and it places a it places a true fear for 2 turns on everyone else. Really powerful for waves, really powerful for arena, really powerful for a lot of places. And also on top of that, the passive effect of this skill is activates this skill whenever an enemy under fear or true fear debuff successfully uses a skill, which means like when that enemy's champion's turn, flip the coin. If it's, let's say, heads, the champion is able to overcome his fear and do an attack. After placing that attack, this guy is going to counter attack automatically, placing petrification on that champion that just got a turn. So the enemy is fucked. It's either you get petrified or you get a fear and you have to start flipping coins and hopefully losing turns. So it's a really powerful skill, and if there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate because otherwise would be busted. So really powerful skill. We've seen so far 2 of them are able to place a 2 turns True Fear, and there's one champion there that is not very used, but it works amazingly with this mechanic, which is Fortus. Fortus is part of the Knight Revenant and it's a DPS, defense-based nuker, which increases the damage he deals the more enemies and the more times the enemies have True Fear or Fear. So in this case, it's a side buff to Fortus, because with this kind of champion placing that many True Fears, the damage for Fortus can skyrocket. So very powerful combo. Possibly, I don't have Fortus, I cannot test it, but I can see there's some interesting synergies. We move on the third one, Spectral Flourish. Attacks all enemies. Before attacking, has a 75% chance of decreasing the duration of all enemies buffs for by 3 turns. This is really good because it doesn't trigger polymorph, it's not removing enemy buffs, it's decreasing the duration by 3 turns. This is very powerful for all PvE content. However, on PvP, this is countered, for example, by the protection set from Hydra. Protection set will allow the champions that wear that set and place buffs a percentage of or a certain chance for that buff placed by that champion to be protected. If it's protected, means it cannot be removed and it cannot have its duration lowered. So in this case, on Arena, we are seeing quite a lot of champions that use a lot of this set. We see a lot of Marichkas, we see a lot of Sifis. So this duration decrease is good. For example, it can work against Stone Skins. Again, Stone Skin also has a certain percentage that you won't do anything to it, but it can work in that way, and the most important, it won't trigger Polymorph. However, what can trigger Polymorph is the Petrification from here, and the True Fear. This will probably trigger Petrification, which means the pinpoint set is probably the best one for this champion, because the stacks of intercept will counter the attempts of shipping this champion. Then we go on the second part of the skill, has a 75% chance of increasing the cooldowns of all enemy skills by 3 turns. This is really powerful. This is very similar to Yumeko. This is an improved version to what we had with Alice. Maybe not to the level of... well, it's the same one that Crixia has, the mythical champion from the Night Revenant. So it's a really powerful control skill, not only removing all the buffs, but also putting all the enemy skills on 3 turns cooldown. Really powerful. And also grants an extra turn if there are no buffs on the enemy team after this attack. This is a bit more tricky, because like I said, as long as there is one enemy buff, one buff on the enemy team, this won't trigger the extra turn. This is mainly for PvE, mainly for waves, amazing for the Cursed City, but for example on Arena, I see a bit more of trouble having extra turns and decreasing fully duration of the turn. Sorry, fully decreasing the duration of the enemy buffs. However, what is very important or is very valuable on Arena is this middle part of 75% chance of increasing the cooldown of all enemy skills by 3 turns. That means like a complete lockdown on the enemy team, and for example Alice can benefit a lot from this skill as well. Finally, we have a passive, we have the cherry on top of the kit that works basically against enemies reviving. Whenever an enemy is revived, places a True Fear debuffs on this enemy for 2 turns, again, really annoying champion. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, this effect will only activate once, okay, perfect, but also removes any stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, True Fear, and Petrification from this champion at the start of their turn, which means this champion is essentially immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, True Fear, and Petrification himself. So a really powerful kit. Finally, we sum up everything with an aura of allies in all battles, 19%, so it's viable in Arena, it's viable in Dungeons, and it's also viable in Siege. Remember that in Siege the Arena auras don't work. And all in all, a really powerful champion, really complete kit, definitely a must-fuse champion because it's going to help you whether you are in the early game, mid game, late game, you have problems in Arena, you have problems with waves. Maybe for bosses it's a bit more useless because pretty much nothing of his kit works against bosses, but it's similar in a sense to Armand's. Armand's is also useless against bosses, but for waves is a top champion. So maybe he's not as strong as Armand's without testing him yet, but they are very on the line. They more or less have the same role of neutralizing completely the enemy team, one with ships and stuns, this one with petrifications and fears, and overall a really powerful champion. Whenever we have this champion on the test server and we're able to test him and to see what is he capable of, we'll have more information. I'll show you how it's geared more efficiently at least. But until then, I don't think it's a fusion you should miss. I'm gonna go 100% for him. I think he's gonna be a powerful champion, and we're gonna see him a lot in the arena. We're gonna have to face him very often. So the pinpoint sets and champions that remove debuffs are probably gonna be very useful from now on with this guy. That's all from my side. Over here, a video recommended to watch after this one, and thank you for watching. Anything you can drop in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.